Hello Stardusk, I apologize for making such a painfully long video, but it seems to me you need a good long conversation. With this video, I hope to give you a new understanding of our situation, and a new understanding of the MGTOW concept, and to inspire you. However, I am a bit of an overly critical jackass, it's just how I am, and so I do criticize some of what you say. If it offends you, so be it, but it's not my goal. Essentially, I do agree with a lot of what you say, but I just want to give you a new way of looking at it, and admittedly I do go off on a few tangents. The collapse of the atheist community, and AVFM, those rants probably weren't necessary, but hey, you brought them up, so I figured I would give my 2 cents. If you can muster through the 20 minutes or so of the atheist community and AVFM rant, there is sure to be a great fountain of MGTOW philosophy that may very well enlighten you, and inspire you.
Greetings, and welcome back. What I'm about to say now might not be pleasing to the ear of many. Regardless, I feel somewhat compelled, undoubtedly by the gods, to make certain statements and just talk about this. It's been on my mind for a while.
Okay, I just have to ask, did you ever go by the name and fiddle dog on this old MMO called Bounty Bay? Because you sound like him. He was my guild leader, of the Salty Devils. I know, like literally 1 in 50 million shot of you and him being the same. But for the past year that I've listened to your videos on and off, the sound of your voice, the way you use bizarre expressions and metaphors, the way you seem to be a jack of all trades intellectually, just the strange way you go about rationalizing things, you two are fucking identical in every way. So it's a 1 in 50 million chance, but it's fucking eating me alive, and I just have to ask, just so I can put the suspicion to rest once and for all, are you infidel dog?
And quite frankly, at this point in time, I don't care about the consequences. They're rather irrelevant to me. But I want to primarily talk about the manosphere, MGTOW, and maybe later on add some points to the video I made the other day. I believe the manosphere is in a state of degradation, dilapidation. I believe the manosphere is on the decline. Now, ostensibly, that's not the case. You see more and more information popping up here and there. I'm not talking about sheer numbers. Those of you know who Mass Effect 2, the warlord or Kier, when he talks about the Krogan being bred by Saren, the rogue Spectre, and he says, well, numbers are nothing. I don't entirely agree with him, but there's something to that.
Again, you coming to a point but having to reach way the fuck out into left field to draw upon a video game reference to do it. Infidel dog?
One super soldier Krogan, potentially, might be worth more than, well, vast numbers. It could go either way, but I think there's little truth to that. The manosphere has, unfortunately, been devolving for quite some time. I've been seeing a degradation in the quality of the videos out there, a lack of insight, and a very distinct lack of dynamism.
I'm with you. I've noticed the movement, the whole MRM and MGTOW community. It's gotten sleepy, lazy, boring, stagnant.
I'll briefly talk about Barbarossa. I think Barbarossa's been around the longest, and to the extent that he's still active, he's the guy who's been around the longest and still active. Man-Woman Myth has retired. He was a source of dynamism, obviously. But he's been around for a long time, longer than I was. Without Barbarossa, there would be no Stardusk, in this incarnation at least. And he made a video a while back, and I don't remember which one off the top of my head, you'll forgive me that. He talked about, I think it was with reference to women in the manosphere and what have you, about when he first entered the manosphere, he wanted to make videos that electrify the hearts and minds of men.
Are you ready for the most electrifying man in sports and entertainment?
So Barbarossssaa is the rock of MGTOW. Yeah, I can believe that. He is electrifying.
It's a bold statement, but I think in the ensuing years he lived up to that claim. So much so that he inspired many channels, including mine. And I have no hesitation in saying that the quality, whether some of you don't like my videos, some of you do, but the quality of my videos is in due in no small part to Brother Barbarossa, because he served as an inspiration. He electrified my heart and mind.
I hear ya, the man is very inspirational. The way he speaks, the ideas he puts forth, sometimes he packs such brilliance into a compact phrase, and then a few of these phrases back to back, and I envision myself as a boxer getting intellectually beaten up by Muhammad Ali, just one wicked sharp combination after another. I'd seriously hate to be in a real-time debate with Barbarossaa on something, like, he'd hit me over the head with 3 or 4 dynamite statements and it'd just knock me for a loop and take me like a half hour to retort. His videos have excellent rewatch value, truly a ton of top-quality information and philosophy that is articulated in a very palatable way. You and I, Stardusk, are in agreement. Barbarossaa is the man.
He forced me, I've always been a critical thinker, to apply my critical thinking skills to another sphere of existence, and to come up with insights. I think that is Barbarossaa's legacy, effectively, his greatest legacy. And when I decided to pursue this channel, or Stardust, Thinking Ape, whatever, when I decided to do this, when I decided to make videos, I wanted to make penetrating, insightful videos to the best of my ability. And I've striven to do that, and I've tried to do that continuously, with every now and then a random rant, admittedly. I tried to move or push forward the envelope, moving from 101 to, I don't know, 102, 103, to 200 level courses, 300, and so on and so forth. Not but a few years ago, I mean, there were a number of figures. Karen Strawn, aka Girl Writes What, rose to fame
by being Canadian, fucking Canadian privilege.
In large measure, although partly due to the fact that she's a female.
The vajayjay didn't hurt either.
Her insightful, interesting videos that got us all thinking.
That too, but don't forget her Canadian privilege.
And when I look around me now, in the manosphere, when I cast my gaze out on YouTube or the blogs or whatever, I see stagnation. I do not see learning. I see nothing of electrification. I see stale, rehash videos about things that have been talked about 10,000-fold before.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. There's this guy who makes videos all the time about the most mundane shit, and maybe you don't want to come out and say his name, but I will. Doom rules, up your game, fool. Your mundane lackluster bullshit is ruining the whole movement. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I mean, quite frankly, now, this is simply my opinion. I'm not arrogating to myself the right to say what direction the manosphere should take. And should it continue in this direction, there's more power to the people who want to take it in that direction. But should it reach the point where it's just totally sterile, I will hang up my metaphorical hat and coat and go my own way in a different direction and just leave it all behind. Needless to say, what the manosphere doesn't need, in my opinion, is rehashing things that have been talked about 1,000 times before, and sometimes it's useful to relearn the basics. The gods know I have forgotten many things in the past, and sometimes you need to relearn them or brush up on certain skills. But we don't need more videos about your mother-in-law or your mother or just the most mundane things you can think of.
Doom, you hear that? No one wants to hear about your mama, so shut up.
Even the illustrious leader of A Voice for Men, who has, of course, revealed himself to essentially be a politician.
A political organization's leader is acting like a politician? You don't say.
One whose primary interest is his agenda, not the people working with him, for him, or even on the sidelines. I mean, he used to make interesting videos, the happy misogynist. Voice for Men has become almost totally PC, totally politically correct.
I keep hearing that. I heard it from Chapin, I heard it from Rocking Mystery, and now I am hearing that from you. I'll be honest, I don't really keep up much with AVFM, but this is the organization that has registered her, a sister site that doxes firstly female sex offenders and murderers, and then began adding feminist protesters on college campuses, and then adding irritating small-time histrionic nutjobs on YouTube. The registerher.com looks eerily similar to an abortion doctor hit list from a pro-life website. I can only assume they're going for the shock value. That's not politically correct. They have articles about how if they didn't dox Fematheist Divine she could have grown up to literally be the next Adolf Hitler and the whole world is safe now. Praise the second coming of Christ whose name is John the Other for saving the world from Hitler, and an audience of hysterical housewives wring their hands thanking John the Other for saving their babies from Fematheist, by doxing her. Dude, that is not a politically correct organization, that is a batshit crazy organization. I just checked their site, went to the forum, one of the first posts I seen was called Female Psychosis, or Why Child Psychology Explains Female Behavior, which effectively compares women to children. That's not politically correct. I remember in the early days of the movement, early 2000s for me, there were forums where you just couldn't say shit like women are just children that never grow up. You couldn't say that because the traditionalist women who were there to totally support men's rights, would get hurt. Cries of, not all women are like that, don't ya know, lots of Nawalt, which is interesting how that only applied to negative stereotypes. I mean if you say women make excellent child nurturers you never got not all women are like that. No, you'd get a unanimous chorus saying, yes, a woman's place is in the home safe and sound raising babies. Praise our right-wing libertarian Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Just so much right-wing Bible-thumping conservative shit that basically worshipped women as goddess of the house and home, the cult of domesticity as I called them. And a quick reminder that feminists are the enemy not women. We must be careful not to get looked at as misogynists. I swear in the olden days, Bible Belt conservative bullshit, and some other forums where the goal was to try to be more anti-white, anti-heterosexual, than the social justice warrior lefties, like, if they just throw enough men, whites, and straights under the bus, the leftist PC police will have mercy on them and accept their anti-feminist stance. I'm guessing that was their endgame. It's anyone's guess, and I want to clarify I am not using this opportunity to bash the Bible. I bring up the Bible Belt conservative traditionalism, because that was the atmosphere I seen. Conservatism, reactionaries, traditionalists, regressive, all four pretty much being the same, as it springs from the same personality type. These people, in any country, in any time period, have always used that culture's main religion as the justification for their views. The reason is that religion is the backbone of a culture. The reactionary who clings to the old ways, and tradition, for love of his culture and fear of its change, will often use that culture's backbone, their religion, as justification to eschew change. This phenomenon goes beyond the left-right paradigm, it's as old as dirt. It's part of how certain personality types rationalize the world around them. What I'm saying is, the old movement, from what I've seen at least, was effectively just reactionary conservatism fighting the progressiveness of feminism, rather than the larger picture of male disposability and misandry. The old movement was gynocentric, and as such, it was very politically correct. They weren't fighting against women for the fair and ethical treatment of men. They were worshipping women and asking the goddesses to please return to the kitchen and resume their God-given role, and then went on to trash feminism in hopes of persuading women to conform to their desired role of traditionalism. Therefore no one was allowed to speak ill of women, only of the communist-inspired feminism. This was more true on some forums than others, but it was a strong theme, and I just don't see that kind of political correctness from AVFM. I'm not saying it's not there, I'm just curious as to where the idea is coming from, because I don't personally see it. Now what I do see, and maybe this is what everyone is harping on, is it seems to me that AVFM is putting all of their women up front, their gays up front, the transgender members up front. It's like the social justice warriors chanting racist, sexist, anti-gay, and Elam counters with oh no, I have lots of black friends, see, I have lots of female friends, see, I have lots of gay friends, see, if that is what's going on, it does worry me, because that's playing into their hands and that's how they win. You'll put all colors of people first, and tell the whites to get to the back of the bus. You put the women up front, the men go to the back of the bus. You put the gays and trans up front, the straight and the cis go to the back of the bus. Then you forevermore critique your ideology, forevermore become active in the minority rights and LGBT, and before you know it, you're a bunch of social justice warrior cultural Marxists handing out copies of the Communist Manifesto and the feminine mystique calling yourself a men's rights group. That slippery slope is real. I seen it in the atheist community. It led to atheism plus. This is why I was a fan of Bernard Chapin and Rocking Mystery. I found their channels and Mystery talked about cultural Marxism, and I was like hell yeah, expose that bullshit for what it is. And Chapin was the right-winger who was here to fight the good fight and keep the movement safe from leftist commie social justice warriors. He was going to drive PC out of this movement before it got hijacked, so Bernard was the man. At least that's how I was looking at it 12 to 15 months ago. I seen the very real hijacking of the old men's movement, or at least various forums within it, and to the atheist movement, by social justice warriors and their cultural Marxist shit, and I didn't want to see it happen to this movement. Then I started noticing Chapin sure did call a lot of weird things leftism. His concept of left was damn near all-inclusive. As time went on, this guy seen a crypto commie, a leftist infiltrator, around every corner. He was acting like there was a genuine high-stakes Illuminati-inspired conspiracy going on, like there were MK Ultra infiltrators sabotaging our efforts on behalf of some government, maybe the SPLC and our shadow government. I was beginning to realize this guy was a bit of a tinfoil hat-wearing Alex Jones type. His definition of leftist went on to include anyone that just didn't agree with him, or didn't agree loud enough. Christ man, he was a fucking nutter and a cultist. Then him and Barbar got into it, and Chapin really dropped the ball. His only retort was calling him cockroacher, and doing mock imitations of him. I swear, I thought I was watching an elementary school child mock someone. It was embarrassing to listen to. I was done with Chapin, just done. I even commented on Barb's channel, and confessed I have no idea why I ever thought Chapin was relevant to the movement. Rocking Mystery turned out to be just as bad. Some nuclear family values natural law professor, a right-wing fundamentalist who went off on MGTOW calling them scum, psychopaths, and cowards for running away from marriage instead of doing their duty to man up. And even before that, I started getting really turned off by Mystery, right around the time I watched a video of him arguing against you with his pro-marriage MRA plus shit, and arguing in favor of chivalry and arguing against the cynical cynic with non-stop accusations of leftism and collectivism, and Marxian thought. And I started realizing Mystery was cut from the same cloth as Chapin. He just knee-jerk calls everyone who disagrees with him even in the politest way, a leftist collectivist Marxian nihilist narcissist yada yada. But motivation to ever have listened to those guys was my own paranoid fear of the movement being hijacked by the social justice warriors. And I'll confess, seeing AVFM put their gays and women up front, rubs me the wrong way. But I keep telling myself I am overreacting. I'm just traumatized by how it happened to the atheist community. But is that the shit you people are calling PC from AVFM? Or is there something else? And I am going to shoehorn this last bit in. When I made a video criticizing AVFM for doxing Fematheist Divine, and for their use of hyperbolic hysterical rhetoric, and their registerher.com Dean Ismay sent me a lengthy letter explaining AVFM's motives and position etc., and we had some lengthy and polite PMs about it. And one of the things he said was AVFM is the biggest men's rights organization. Their strategy seems to be working, and if I had a better way, don't tell them the better way, show them the better way in action, and if it works, they will adapt their strategy. And in that moment, I realized even if they seem batshit crazy, they may actually be more sane and intelligent than any organization before them. The understanding of do what works, and keep changing it to work better is a lesson I wished others had learned. Far too many prideful organizations clinging steadfast to some principle, some ideal, that just wasn't working, and rather than trimming the fat, critiquing their method, they went down with the ship. They let their little ragtag organizations fade away because they refused to drop some detrimental aspect of what they were about, or how they do business. It gave me great hope that AVFM is willing to change how they do business. If their current approach begins failing and losing traction to another rising company with a different image and approach, like I said, they may very well be more intelligent and sane than the organizations before them. So while their style isn't mine, it nonetheless seems to be working, and is getting the message out there. So I just can't sit around bellyaching too much. An organization that is willing to adapt, is an organization that is in it for the long haul.
And, you know, they still haven't changed any laws. All they do is write articles and make videos. I do that too, and I'm dirt poor.
A small organization is not going to change laws. Laws are not going to get changed anytime within this generation. If a law does get changed that favors men, in the next 20 years, it'll have nothing to do with MRM, MGTOW. Even if you could just magically scribble some pro-male law on the book, that law would get interpreted through gynocentric eyes. The goal of our movement is a cultural change. A shift in attitude is needed before there is a shift in laws. Besides, exactly what laws need to be changed? I know there are some. but for the most part the laws on the books are gender neutral. Women can't molest boys. No law says women are to receive less prison time, for the most part. The actual laws aren't the problem. Our entire culture's attitude is. Therefore AVFM's approach should not be to petition Congress and grease the palms of politicians, or put up $800 billion for a presidential campaign. That's actually the cost of Mitt Romney's campaign, by the way. Their goal should be spreading propaganda, and working with other groups, and it seems to be the thing they're doing. As far as their money, didn't they just spend like $10,000 to meet the mandatory requirement for security at some campus to allow some MRM lecture to take place or something like that? Isn't at least a part of what their money goes towards being the funding of meetings for real-world activism? I mean, you do understand this movement has to consist of more than just people with microphones belly aching on YouTube, and that's not a slight against you, because hell, it's all I do. But what I'm saying is, real-world activism is essential. Karen Strawn has given speeches that she had to travel a distance to get to. Couldn't she just do that on YouTube from her kitchen? Sure, but it doesn't have the same effect. She gave a speech in front of some libertarian group. Well then, she spread the MRM message to a group of people that didn't care, or only slightly cared, about the men's rights issue. Therefore she, and her MRA views, are gaining favor with a group of people otherwise not on our side. In other cases, when you physically show up to a place that has been reserved for the meeting, this is a type of territorial pissing. When you're not wanted, and you muscle your way in, you've pissed on your opponent's safe space. You force them to up their game. This in turn will draw attention to your cause. When a small group of MRAs wants to have a pointless meeting at some college, to basically rehash the same tired male rights bellyaching they're doing on the internet, the thing that makes this so important is the opposition they receive from the feminists. The feminists going out of their way to gather in protest, to scream their chants of disgust and disapproval, to beat their hockey sticks against the ground. They hand out flyers asking others to join them to stop hate speech on campus. They end up pulling fire alarms. This forces firefighters to arrive. This attracts local news reporters. This circus act they perform ends up making local news. Now 1 million or so people are forced to hear about it. If the feminists did what they have always done, sit on their hands and ignore us like we're not here, they'd be better for it. But these hypersensitive hate-mongers can't resist making spectacles of themselves, and in doing so, give our cause infinitely more publicity than all the money in the manosphere could ever buy. That's the importance of real-world activism, and isn't that at least part of where AVFM's money goes?
You don't need tens of thousands of dollars to do that. So where is all the dynamism gone? Now, it is true that over time, all movements degrade. Now, this is, of course, not a mirror image of what happened to the atheist movement, but we saw it with Rebecca Watson, atheism plus, all this nonsense. We've seen it in the United States with the Tea Party movement, which originally started off as a very much a purist libertarian movement, was co-opted by neocons and the standard popular right-wing Republicans.
I'm not going to comment on the Tea Party, other than saying I really want to fuck Sarah Palin, and I don't know why. There is just something about a chick that shoots a moose. It's sexy. As far as all movements fade over time, well, no, communism has lasted well over a century. A movement that fades away is typically a movement that was corrupt, wrong, stupid, or a momentary reaction to change. So long as there is extreme mass injustice to the male sex, there is a reason for a men's movement. It won't fade until the environment that brought it forth changes. The African American civil rights movement didn't fade. The feminist movement hasn't faded. Things like the anti-vaccination movement will die, because it's wrong and stupid. The HIV-denying movement will fade, because it is stupid and wrong. If a movement is somehow stupid and wrong but still serves a utilitarian function, it may last until that utilitarian function is met by a greater movement, or there is no longer a use for that utility. Capitalism and communism will always be around because they are two sides of the same coin, two different ends of the same spectrum. So long as our economies are based on the spectrum, the two extreme ends of the spectrum will be a part of our lives. We can claim religion is stupid, corrupt, and wrong, but it serves a utilitarian function to a significant portion of society. As far as the atheist community, they're still around, and Rebecca Watson had nothing to do with its decline. The elevator gate incident was just internal problems within the movement that eventually came to a head. That movement had always been wrought with cultural Marxism, the anti-white, anti-male, anti-heterosexual, anti-cis, anti-nationalism. the xenophilia and oikophobia, you know, cultural Marxism. I bailed from that community right around the time Thunderfoot made videos attacking Islam, and the atheist community jumped on his ass big time. About half the atheist community rallied together to support Islam, and this was the first time the community ever had a divide. I thought it was shocking that a group of people that bashed Christians and Christianity, and in many cases did so in unnecessary ways, suddenly rallied together to support Islam, a severe militant extremist religion that has every intention of dominating by brute force, and invades countries and devours them like the Nazis, are suddenly being defended. But we tame watered down feel good and smile for Jesus Christianity was something to be rallied against. I mean, if there was ever a religion that shows the dark side of faith, if there was ever a religion that needed someone to stand against its aggression, if there was ever a religion that atheists ought to be fighting, it's fucking Islam. And I'm not inherently hostile to Islam. I was an atheist activist that believed people have a right to their faith and a right to practice their faith, but their faith should not be dictating the laws and rights of others. Islam, far more than modern-day Christianity, is about as bad as medieval Christianity, seeks to force people to comply with their way of life. To me, this actually made modern-day Islam the greater threat to secular rights. But about half the community would viciously call you a bigot if you dare speak ill of Islam, and that's when it dawned on me. These atheists, they're just anti-home. They reject Christianity because it is the religion of their people. They reject nationalism and patriotism because they reject the homeland, the land of their people. They aren't egalitarian so much as they are just against white people, you know, their racial kind. They don't support gay marriage because of civil rights. They support homosexuality in every way as a slight against heterosexuality, the thing in which nearly all of them are. It is a type of self-hatred manifested outward. It is the suicidal tendency outstretched to include not only yourself, but your likeness. Suicide is the internal, the introvert, genocide being the external. The extrovert, a desire to kill off one's own likeness. It's something to do with narcissism meets suicide. Thyself is too precious and special to die, but thy likeness found in others must be murdered. These self-alienated individuals being against the thing in which they are. It's part of the Western world's collective pathology. The Western world suffers from a collective mental disease. I blame comfort. Yes, comfort corrupts, makes us sick mentally and physically. We are moths. Comfort is the flame. We seek out comfort, and then comfort burns us, makes us sick. This sick self-hating collective was ripe for a feminist hijacking, and women too are infected with this mindset. But when women get mad at themselves, they take it out on men. Self-loathing fuels their misandry. In fact, it is the very basis for all of their misandry and always has been. Men are strong, women by comparison are weak. Women are ashamed of their weakness, thus they resent men for their strength. Men are creative and women are not. Women are ashamed. Shame and envy create resent, thus they resent males. Men are more athletic. Women resent this, thus resent males. Men can take the aggressor role in sex with his penis. Women envy this, they are resentful for it. Every time a woman spreads her legs to a man, she gives of herself, and men get to enjoy a beautiful orgasm. In most cases the woman does not get an orgasm, and is left feeling ripped off, like she gave something to you, you gave nothing back. Thus a woman is far more likely to feel used or raped after a one-night stand. This lack of climaxing explains a great deal of their hatred for male sexuality. Women are forced to menstruate, men are privileged in that we do not. They hate us for this privilege. Women envy men. Shame plus admiration creates resent. The more shame, the more guilt. The more self-loathing women have, the more they take it out on men. We live in a self-destructive, self-loathing culture. Western culture is a unique hybrid of narcissism and self-loathing, as are women. This shouldn't be surprising that narcissism and insecurity, two seemingly opposite things, are related. Narcissism itself is rooted in insecurity. Alexander the Great, the most notorious real-world narcissist, was haunted by fears that he was not truly descended from the gods as his mother told him. Narcissism, insecurity, femininity, lots of overlap. Anyhow, I realized the atheist community consisted of some rational scientific-minded individuals, but was mostly a collective of mental defects, a rejection of the normal, the home, the familiar. Our home, our culture, is, like it or not, a Christian culture. Thus Christianity, like all things of the home, the familiar, must die, says the oikophobic cultural Marxist. I began feeling revolt for the arrogance of atheist morality, the smug arrogant pride of the atheist cult. Such vile words as, and I would never have expected such dreadful behavior from an atheist. I realized they were doing what the religious had always done to us, looked down on us as evil, wicked, less than human. because we didn't believe there is this really awesome invisible man in the sky that inspired desert wanderers of thousands of years ago to scribble down his divine words of truth. For this lack of belief, we were wicked. Now the atheists were doing this to them, believing themselves to be good and moral, and believe the religious to be of bad moral character. I seen the us and them mentality that so easily turns to bigotry when unchecked. Well, it had gone unchecked. The smug, arrogant, narcissistic bigotry was there. I also noticed too many atheists really believed shit like if we could just get rid of religion, all the evil of the world would end. No more wars, no more bigotry, no more intolerance, just love and peace and forever blissful atheist happiness. And I realized, holy shit, this is a fucking cult. Then it dawned on me, religion isn't the problem, humans are. Humans wish to have dominion and control over others. Religion is a damn good excuse. Humans want to murder. Handguns are a damn fine tool to get the job done. Remove the guns and people will just use spears and clubs. Remove religion and people will use atheism, tolerance, republicanism, libertarianism, communism, conservatism, egalitarianism, cultural Marxism, environmentalism, or any other ism. And I am very serious about how easy environmentalism could cause wars and tyranny in the same intolerance and anti-science as any mainstream religion. Guns don't commit murder, they're just convenient tools. Religion doesn't dominate people, people dominate people. The psychological motivations, the thoughts and mechanisms are always going to be there. I lost interest in the atheist movement. It was too hard to tell the sane, rational people who just wanted their secular rights secured, versus the mentally ill, self-loathing oikophobes who wanted to harm the familiar, the extension of self via cultural Marxist implementation. Their irritating use of the words critical thinking, which more times than not means my opinion has super awesome validity because I spoke the words critical thinking before spouting my bullshit. Calling themselves free thinkers while being fundamentally incapable of thinking outside the box of political correctness, calling themselves skeptics while attacking others for not immediately accepting their dogmatic views. You got free thought blogs which will ban you in a red hot minute the moment you don't just nod your head and agree with the lead speaker. Oh, the irony. The hypocrisy of their language was like a cruel parody of Orwell's doublespeak. Then of course Elevator Gate, the straw that broke the camel's back, Atheism Plus, which was a great thing, as it greatly helped to weed the social justice weasels out of the movement, and helped to divide the sane from the insane. But by then, the atheist community experience just felt sour to me. I don't begrudge those who are participants in that community, I just lost all care to personally be a part of it, and I think a lot of other people may feel the same way. But anyhow, you're wrong. Not all movements fade out. The African Americans won their civil rights. Feminism 100 years later is dominating society. Socialism is still alive and kicking. Christianity, Islam, and many other religions have been around for millennia. The LGBT movement has grown, prospered, and is still growing. Environmentalism is still around and strong as hell. Lots of movements survive and prosper. Most of them fail because they were stupid. Speaking of stupid, I still want to fuck Sarah Palin. What is it about her?
So all things degrade over time, including movements. But the thing about the manosphere that was so unique is that people were just coming out, saying interesting things, and didn't give a shit about whether they were, causing offense to people. None of this really mattered.
Kinda sounds like me.
No one was trying to play a politically correct game. It was, at least in a mental sense, some of the most exhilarating time of my life, and I was privileged to be part of that. I don't see that anymore, and that could just be the natural progression of things. Could just be the way everything goes and the way movements go. I said these are just my opinions, but I don't think we need to rehash 101. Now, I think his name is Betty Swalix, made a point. Yeah, everyone's at different stages, and everyone comes into this at different stages and progresses at different stages. Completely agree with that. However, there's tons of old material. I mean, all the stuff that's being rehashed now that we hear in daily doses, that's been stated ad nauseum. It's all there in Barbarossssaa videos, in my videos, in Man Will Myth videos. It's all there. What I don't see is the kind of motivation I had when I first started this channel, inspired in large measure by Barbarossssaa, to make videos that electrify the hearts and minds of men, to really push that envelope further, to start to push ever forward in terms of critical thinking. How much more can we understand about this experiment we call humanity, and about men's place in it with respects to women? Not about women with respects to men, but about men with respects to women. That is, how women affect men. But it started off as well, I have to say, as something that was just, it was in men's interests. And I want to branch off a little here and talk about something else. Speaking of MGTOW, the different kinds of MGTOW, Sir Mickey of Shrugged, former denizen of Wisconsin and now denizen of the arid wasteland we call Arizona, stated that this guy, Mike Skinner, I watched some of his videos. Most of his videos are just saying that MGTOW is misogynist, blah, 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 same as the feminists, okay? He said, the self-determination versus social change, okay? Well, I'm not really sure if that's accurate, but what I do see a lot of is, quite frankly, when Barbarossssaa canonically stated in that very old, that older video of his, I see a lot of men one blowjob away from jumping ship. That's what I see. I see a lot of newcomers who are just despondent and essentially the one BJ away, just ready to jump ship at the best opportunity to hook up with a female. The minute, and this is a problem with the manosphere in general, any concession any female makes is looked upon as some great victory. Anytime a female starts a channel and makes videos and says, feminism sucks, blah, 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 she's lauded as some sort of celestial figure descending from the heavens. It's insane.
I think a lot of that is the novelty of it. This movement is a sausage fest, and most of us are all echoing each other. A woman arrives on the scene echoing us, and it's fascinating because it's rare. Furthermore, there is an understanding that in a female-centered society, a woman's voice is worth that of many men. It's like looking at a chessboard and seeing a lot of pawns. You need your pawns. They serve a function. But everyone's eyes are on each other's queen since she's the one with all the power. In a manosphere consisting of mostly pawns and a few knights and rooks, a queen arrives on the scene and all eyes are on her because of her power. And something I've noticed is, the feminists don't like us MRA/MGTOW, but good lord, the level of venomous hatred they have for the women who support us is borderline psychotic. I recall Sale Palani practically frothing at the mouth bitching about how girl rights what was just suckering all of us males. GWW is just telling us what we wanted to hear. Again, it's one thing for a man to stand up against female supremacy. Women can write us off as fat virgins living in our mother's basement who are butthurt that girls won't fuck us. They can tell themselves that, and they can rest assured, in their own minds, that if anything with a vagina should lower herself to sleeping with one of us, we would instantly get back into our obedient role. This is why feminists use lots of eye-rolling, laughing, and mocking, because in their minds they are laughing at losers who are butthurt about not getting laid. They refuse to understand that getting laid or not, males are tired of the mistreatment. But when a woman jumps ship and joins us, it's a whole new statement. It makes them scared. It makes them want to scream stop, don't take their side. As long as we laugh at them they can't hurt us. But if women join them they'll win. Women understand the power of their gynocentric unity. A woman jumping ship cuts them twice, first by leaving the sisterhood, and secondly by validating the male position. Women believe, and to some degree they're right, that if women just stand together, they win. All of society is geared toward female interest. If no woman joins the men just have no voice, and I think a lot of men feel this way too. And again, there is a lot of truth to it, though it is by no means an absolute, so a woman jumping ship is the only real threat the feminists feel. Another reason is because most men, possibly all men, want to believe women are good, or that women can be good, or that some women are good, and seeing a woman join us, offer us sympathy, mercy, is the male fantasy coming true. That male fantasy works like this: we are all scared, insecure and weak, we all walk this earth with a brave face to mask these fears, we invent belief in a glorious and loving afterlife, we tell ourselves that gods, angels, deceased loved ones, some force is looking out for us and will see us through the tough times. Sometimes we resort to thrill-seeking and risk-taking as a way of conquering our fear of mortality, but in the end, life is short, reality is cruel, we're infinitely more alone than we care to realize. No one cares about us as much as we'd like to think they do. No one is as concerned about our feelings as we are concerned about our feelings. In the mind of men, women are the angels of mercy to hold us, catch us, when we fall. They are the eternal nurturing mother to kiss our boo-boos with the magical healing power of love. and to wipe our tears. This, like the belief in paradise, is just a fantasy to give us hope, to help us be strong when we feel weak. We don't see evidence of paradise, but we believe. We don't see evidence of women's selfless nurturing love, but we believe. That brief transition of vulnerability and naivety in our youth when we were weak and scared, and loved and soothed by the soft maternal touch of our mothers, the soothing love from our mothers, a part of us wishes to return to that. In our adulthood, we wish to find a woman that can be a whore in the bedroom, but hold us when we are weak, soothe us like our mothers did for us as little boys. The problem is the relational dynamics of mother and son cannot be found in husband and wife, but we don't want to accept that. We want to believe women can be loving, just completely selfless and loving. When the tradcan says it's not women, it's just feminism, and when he says not all women are like that, realize he's trying to convince himself of this as much as he is trying to convince you of it. Men don't want to believe in the wickedness of women. We don't want to believe they are as cruel as we are. They are as selfish, if not more so, than even we are. And if the reality of it sinks in, and a man can no longer deny the greed, the absolutely narcissistic pettiness of women, he will insist that she is under some wicked spell. Communism, socialism did this to her. It's the communists that hurt our angelic women and made them into something other than angels of love and mercy. My point is, men want to believe that women are or can be those loving angels of mercy. We want to see it. We want to see it very much. We want to see it so bad that we'll see it even when it's not there. So when a woman joins our side, she is the male prayer being answered. She is the male fantasy. A woman that cares about us. A woman that will part with her own privilege and advantage to protect us, out of love. And this is another reason why we pedestalize them when they come to this movement. But what is a woman's real motive for joining this movement? Lots of different reasons. Different reasons for different women. Some of them good, some bad, some irrelevant. As for your fear of many MGTOW being one blowjob away from jumping ship, that is indeed a valid fear. I don't know who first said it, but they said we're all recovering pussy beggars. We're all recovering manginas. I believe there are many in the movement who are just heartbroken and are here to lick their wounds. And once some purdy blonde gives them a little wink, it's all over, and they're back on the pussy trail. And the sad thing is, there's nothing we can do about that. But while they're here they can be useful in propagating our message. And maybe while they're here, they can at least learn something. Maybe they'll go into things a little more cautious. Maybe they will at least take with them a deep and genuine understanding of the male disadvantages. Albeit they won't care because they got pussy, they got female approval. So to hell with men and their rights. He's a winner baby, he's getting laid like a real man. But at least the knowledge will be there. How many proud MGTOW will be ass-kissing some woman on the phone 5 years from now saying but baby please? Oh come on girl, you know I love you girl, why you gotta be like that baby, you know I love you, come on girl, don't be like that. Just so pussy whipped and begging for her vaginal seal of approval when she's having a spoiled tantrum. How many within the next 5 years? Probably 1/4 to 1/3. And that's not including all the ones that walk away out of boredom. How many will jump ship and join the feminists? Or spout feminist rhetoric? Not many. It would be a rare thing. Yeah I know, I'm not exactly the bringer of good news and positivity, so I'll shoehorn some in. The good news is I am confident that our numbers will continue to grow and that we will replace our departed members at a rate faster than they depart, and those who do depart will leave here wiser, and may one day return. The fact we're going to have so many people leaving and so many new people arriving, is an argument for the benefit of MGTOW 101 being regurgitated so much. The fact that people could just jump ship at any moment is another reason regurgitating the basics of MGTOW is so important. The constant repetition as a constant reminder of our plight. Many people echoing the same message reinforces the message, builds and sustains our culture.
But this is the one blowjob away mentality. This is men's endemic need to worship females. You see it everywhere. In the manosphere, outside, anytime a woman does anything that's remarkable, or not anything remarkable, but respectable. Like I watched a little snippet of a documentary on a girl who happens to like mechanics and working on cars, just like many men do. And admittedly, she's talented, but so are many men. And this was, General Motors is going to try to recruit her and all of this stuff. I mean, what's up with that? You'd think that men in the manosphere would be wise to this sort of thing. They're not, because, quite frankly, most of them are just one blowjob away. I mean, that's the best way to put it. Instead of MGTOW turning into a unique movement consisting of critical thinkers who are pushing the envelope and insight into human beings and humanity at large, ever further, you just got guys, I hate to say it, just complaining about women, and that's it, and talking about their mother-in-laws. I understand that that has a cathartic effect, and we've all been there to some degree, but at some point in time, we have to move on, lest we forever be trapped in a one blowjob away stage. A stage, quite frankly, of paralysis. We can't move beyond this. I mean, there's almost, I don't see a single dynamic element in the manosphere at the moment.
There's this guy, Razorblade Candy, he's pretty badass, specializes in what is arguably the most complex videos in the manosphere, and intellectually up there with the big dogs, or so I hear. I'll link you his channel. But here's the statement I want to get back to.
I mean, quite frankly, now this is simply my opinion. I'm not arrogating to myself the right to say what direction the manosphere should take, and should it continue in this direction, there's more power to the people who want to take it in that direction. But I will, should it reach the point where it's just totally sterile, I will hang up my metaphorical hat and coat and go my own way in a different direction and just leave it all behind.
And that's why I am making this video, because I want to ask why you make videos. Interesting, you say it's not your place to insist that the manosphere changes its way, but if it doesn't, you're out of here. Christ almighty, where's my Alka-Seltzer? I don't know why you're here, Stardusk, but let me tell you why I'm here. Back in the early 2000s, Jesus Christ, how fucking long is this video going to be? Back in the early 2000s the community wasn't called MGTOW and MRM, it was just anti-feminist, and it sucked. All we had were a handful of bloggers and a few forums, and everyone damn it, sounded just like this guy right here.
I wanted to give a response because I'm getting a lot of heat from American citizens, specifically females, and this is what they're saying. Some of it's true and some of it's not. Some of it's a bald-faced exaggeration. One of the things I'm hearing over and over is, you hate American women. You like Asian women because they're submissive and you can control them. That is the biggest lie I've ever heard. If there's one thing I learned while I was living in Hong Kong, Asian women are not submissive most of the time. But I will say one thing about the Filipino women that I noticed. A lot of them can be very loyal and submissive and respectful to their boyfriends or husbands. Something a lot of American women need to pay heed to.
So the women are wrong. Asian women are not submissive, and you don't desire submissive women, but Filipino women, which are Asian, are very submissive, and you think American women should be more like that. Look, buddy, you should have just opened with damn right I want a submissive bitch.
I have already talked about feminism in another video, so I'm not going to cover that again. I think feminism has done a great job in ruining Western women.
I know, women were once soft submissive angels and we all lived in peace and harmony. Then came feminism and wrecked it. It's not women, it's just feminism. Feminism put it into their silly little heads that they can have jobs like a man. Good grief, ladies, get back in the kitchen while men act as your plow horses. And remember, because your place is in the home fixing dinner and raising babies, being wholly reliant on a man to provide for you, make sure to go out and marry the richest man you can. That way I can sit around bitching about women seeking out wealthy men like gold diggers, all the while placing you women in a circumstance where seeking out wealthy men is about your only realistic option for survival.
Specifically, Aussie women and American women. My opinion based on years of observation, experiences with women, and a lot of them, and talking to other males and females who I believe have the right balanced approach to how a woman and a man ought to be. Now, let me just first clarify something. I'm old school. I believe a woman should be submissive to her husband. I don't believe women should be in combat positions in the military. My personal opinion. I don't believe women should be in contact sports. My personal opinion. I don't think women should be doing anything to behave and act like and talk like and sound like and carry themselves like a male. Men were given testosterone and big muscles for a reason. Women were given nice bodies and femininity for a reason. And in this wonderful American day and age of blurring the sexual lines, we have problems, Houston. And I want to say something. I love women very much, but increasingly I'm finding a disdain developing in Pacific towards American women because they're so combative. It is my personal observation that American women have a problem with authority. They want to be the authority, they want to be the leaders, and they want to be in charge.
I know, and you just want a submissive woman to help you feel more like a manly man. You're old school, which in this case is code for traditionalist. You love women, just love women like they're goddesses, and that nasty feminism got in their brains and corrupted them from their natural biological state of being wispy flowery nurturers whose place is in the home fixing her husband a sandwich like a submissive woman, and popping out babies, while men do all the protecting, like a white knight, and all the providing, like an ATM. Women don't belong in military, they're far too precious. It is the disposable male role to die for his country, and where do you derive your view of how things ought to be?
That's why the gangs have taken over in every major city in the U.S. and everybody's afraid, because nobody's doing anything about it. Oh yeah, the cops try and people try, but by and large society runs in fear. But they'll stand up against somebody with Christian views. They'll stand up if a man says that Darwin was wrong and evolution is a lie. They'll get angry if I say American women are biatches, and they are. Now, there's a disclaimer here. There are some good American women out there. I know some. But by and large, our culture has been so infected with our culture that even Christians don't know what biblical truth is anymore. If you don't believe me, look at the standard American church today with rock music for worship. Where did that come from? The culture. Women are calling themselves pastors and ministers. Where did that come from? Not the Bible. Boy, the Bible has a lot to say about that. I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over men. Women hate that. If you want to know what's right and wrong, come to American culture and watch what women and men do. And watch how they drive and watch how they act as a rule. And you'll find out that that is the exact opposite of what God calls for. It was not God's intent for women and men to be competing against each other. It was not God's intent for men to dominate women. But it was definitely not God's intent for women to dominate, rise up, take on, and attack males. Bogus. There are good men out there, but women and men, we all need to back up. We need to ask ourselves some foundational questions. Now, if you're not a Christian and you don't share biblical views, this video has no application to you because you're not going to understand what I'm saying. Women were not made to take on and compete with men. The Bible talks about women and how they're supposed to respond to their husbands. The meek and gentle spirit. I like what Proverbs 31 says about a virtuous woman who can find. I have yet to date in 46 years of my life met a virtuous woman.
The Bible, of course, and if I am not a Christian, I just wouldn't get it. Cute way of saying Christ or get the fuck out. The Bible, often used by the reactionary conservative afraid of change. And you most certainly are just a reactionary afraid of change who wants to return us to an old way of life which you have a silly and romantic view of.
We live in an age where people are redefining the marriage roles and values and rules, where they're redefining what makes up a family unit. Our culture is so anti-family, so pro-gay, so pro-abortion, so pro-women's rights, so pro-SUV and $5 coffee and spend yourself silly. Our culture in America is so blasted and pimped by advertising dollars that most Americans don't even know what the definition of real is anymore. Most people don't even know what real steel is anymore. You buy a $45,000 SUV and the gauge of steel on it is as thin as a pop can. And you go back to the 60s when trucks and cars were made of steel that if you kicked it, you would hurt your foot. But virtuous woman is defined by Proverbs. I haven't met her yet. I haven't seen it. Now, I've met some that come awful close in the Philippines. I've met some that come awful close in Asia. Why is that? Because our culture has changed.
Yup, back in them good old days, family, queers stayed in the closet or we'd smear them, dang nabbit. Our Christian culture didn't tolerate that abomination, and we didn't tolerate women getting all uppity and getting jobs. No sir, Women stayed at home vacuuming the rug while all the burden of keeping the family afloat rested on the man's shoulders, and men went off and died in wars like manly men, to keep them women safe and sound, and women sought out wealthy men because we didn't allow them to work, and back in them good old days cars were made out of 5 tons of steel, guzzled gas and belted out black toxic smoke, had safety belts that only went around your waist, guaranteed to force your head to slam into the steering wheel extra hard, and had hard steering wheels guaranteed to crack your head open like an egg on the edge of a skillet when you hit something head on. Because no airbags, airbags are for sissies. Power steering, are you shitting me? What are you, a fag, too weak to turn the wheel by yourself? Hey Einstein, did it dawn on you that those old-fashioned cars just wouldn't be practical in the modern era? Does it occur to you that the old ways didn't just completely up and change for the hell of it, and trying to arbitrarily bring back romanticized aspects of the past can't function in modern society due to the context in which those things existed? I want you to picture 500 of him, plus 500 rocking mysteries plus 500 Chapins and about 500 tinfoil hat wearing, Illuminati fearing, Jew hating, Federal Reserve hating, white nationalists, talk about a weird gaggle of misfits. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I remember, but it all felt like we have to fight feminism to secure the future of our white Christian capitalist American heritage, praise the Lord, then insert social justice warriors and some concern trolling. The ideas put forth by men like Barbarossssaa didn't exist back then. It was all about foreign women are better, the women's need to submit to their husbands and make sandwiches and babies because family. There was no stability in these communities. I had no audience, and was at best a lonely pariah posting on people's deserted blogs and forums that went down about every 6 months and fell apart due to neglect and spam bots. That was the anti-feminist movement as I remember it, and that's why I left that movement, lost interest and pursued other things. You, who are about to walk away, have 3,500 subscribers, and an environment that on some level, for the most part, gets it. You've got a lot more to work with than I did when I walked away. You claim we are regressing. Well, you've been in the YouTube era of MRM longer than me. All I can tell you is we haven't regressed that far back. I watch a lot of Sandman's videos, and that sort of shit like I showed you, isn't in his videos, nor is it in the comment section of his videos. Although there is a fear that the repetition, when not guided by higher intellectuals, can stray and go in a bad direction, and there are directions just as bad as going back to the Bible Belt Christian conservative reactionary era of the anti-feminist community. We could stray and forget that some of women's behavior is the result of her biology, some the result of environment bringing out the worst from biology. The old, nature versus nurture, when observing and in many cases just bellyaching about women's behavior, it is important to not intertwine the nature and the nurture. For example, on Sandman's channel, there was a bit of a debate about women don't like short men. Sandman made a video about women don't like short guys, and I wrote a bit of a caution that this type of griping is counterproductive. I said this. I think what is important to keep in mind here is that women being attracted to tall men is not a calculated conscious decision, it is an instinctive drive, like a man's attraction to big breasts, round butts, smooth skin. We can talk about how tall men serve a better utilitarian function etc., but let us acknowledge this is an evolutionary biological explanation for the drive. It serves an evolutionary purpose, as does the smooth young skin on a woman and large breasts. Because it works, evolution has seen it fit to make it a predominant behavior. That doesn't change the fact that it's still there. I'm just saying with something as basic as a turn-on, it's hard to hold a grudge for this behavior. Women don't choose what gets their pussy wet, men don't choose what gets their dick hard. We could argue that all the obnoxious male and female behaviors are the result of biology, but that's ignoring such things as conscious decisions that are telling of one's motivations. Biology may be the underlying motive for the way we feel, but it is our state of mind, cultural conditioning, and perception, that tells us when to act on a feeling. Those things can change. The feelings themselves do not. So while it is good that we talk about these male and female mating preferences, it is also wise to differentiate between nature and nurture, and to only bring up the nature aspect for academic reasons. What I'm saying is, the feminists bitch that fat women and hairy women aren't on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and how it's the media that portrays a false perception of beauty. They completely ignore the fact that it is the male biological drive to seek out busty thin smooth-skinned women, and has nothing to do with social conditioning or media propaganda. Let us be cautious not to fall into the same trap they have. And I received some pretty mature replies equally long-winded, but what concerns me in those replies was the notion that height is not relevant to survival any longer. Height is not a good indicator of raw strength, and raw strength isn't as important as it used to be. therefore it's a maladaptive instinct. Yeah, well, firstly, that's bullshit. Height is relevant to survival/prosperity even in the modern world. Secondly is this notion that it is somehow a moral wrong that women are acting on an outdated instinct. This is equal to the women bitching that a man's attraction to smooth skin, being based on an indicator of health, and her breasts and hip-to-waist ratio being indicators of fertility, are not accurate predictors of health, and we have modern medicines and detection methods to provide evidence for genetic health. Therefore men need to just magically switch off this ancient instinct. It's that thing I was talking about, like those pesky dames bitching about, society likes thin women, instead of appreciating all kinds of body types, because of patriarchy. That's why I need feminism. It's the same fucking petty superficial gripe that reeks of gender ideologues crying that nature needs to stop being out of tune with their preferred view of how things ought to be. But then there were some more comments outside of my comment thread that I want to show you, which are a perfect example of this.
This is a pathetic MGTOW subject. I like women with some color that have large breasts. Does that make me a racist? No, of course not. If women prefer tall men, it is their right and can hardly be used against them. They can have their tall men and I will take my large tits and everyone is happy.
Yes, some men like big tits and some like small tits. Most women like tall men, but I don't see a female preference for short men.
Correction. Most men prefer women with large breasts. In fact, there have been studies done on this and it has been revealed that an overwhelming majority of men, regardless of background or culture, prefer the hourglass figure. Tallness in the eyes of women is just like large breasts in the eyes of men. The only difference is that it is a lot easier to fake big tits than it is to fake height.
I like small tits. And I'm only 5 feet 7 inches. Call this topic pathetic, but that's messed up, man. I'm in part a MGTOW cause of my height. You are basically giving women an excuse to reject men just cause of their height. Would you reject a girl with small breasts?
Men like women with all kinds of boobs. But women don't like men that come in different heights. A super short guy is like a really obese woman. Sure, there are chubby chasers out there, but it's rare to find women involved in a short man fetish. Just saying, even the fat women get love.
But the difference is, fat women can lose weight, but short men can't get dollar.
I agree. So to say women have the choice to choose tall men and should dismiss the short, is wrong in my books.
Man, that's your personal preference. But the womb walkers follow the same pattern. Heightism equals genocide?
Sub LBC gets it, but everyone else seems a little gender ideologish. We got the one guy that says part of his reason to be MGTOW is that women prefer taller men, which, when you think about it, is basically a confession that the moment some woman gives Shorty a blowjob, he's out of here. How many so-called MGTOW are just butthurt that they don't have enough of any given attribute to measure up to a woman's inborn mating preferences? Probably about 1/3 at least. There is no shortage of guys who are really and truly here just because they can't get laid, and the moment some purdy blonde gives them approval they'll be out of here, patting themselves on the back that they are winners, real men, because some female gave them approval. They call themselves MGTOW, but they don't get it. Oh well, as long as they are here, there is a shot they might learn something, and that guy, the one who was all like heightism equals genocide, oh for fuck's sakes. The whole video and thread kinda makes me think the statement check your height privilege was around the corner at any moment. Yes, Stardusk, I see your concern that the movement may be regressing, but this is not the result of mass-produced videos, or repetition. It is the lack of intellectuals like you, me, Barbarossssaa, man-woman myth, and girl rights what, to give intellectual guidance at a steady and constant pace. I do completely agree we do need more intellectual elites. And it does pain me to have to put myself in that category because it sounds like egotistic bragging, and bragging is normally a compensation mechanism for insecurity, considering that this movement has, and always will have, a large percentage of people who are effectively just angry that they don't measure up to women's mating standards. There is a real threat that the entire movement could degenerate into a self-pitying, griping, about women, as a way of verbalizing their internal dissatisfaction with themselves, and with all the tradcons calling themselves MRAs. There is a danger in regressing to a conservative Bible Belt anti-feminist movement that has nothing to do with actually obtaining equal rights for men. This is an ever-looming danger, now, and most likely forever, but this degeneration will be a temporary cycle, though the less severe these cycles, and the less frequent these cycles, the faster we accomplish our goals. I see it as my job to call out stupidity when I see it, my job to stop the herd from going in the wrong direction. Stardusk, I can't do this alone. Barbarossssaa can't do this alone. If you walk away from this movement, it's gonna be that much harder for me and Barbar to pull this movement while we wait for another hard-hitting intellectual to ease our burden and replace our loss of one Stardusk. I say I don't see the regression, but I must confess, I am new to this era, this YouTube era, of men's rights activism. So maybe you are seeing things more clearly than me. I will concede, this is a possibility, and there is the rocking mystery prophesy that this movement, specifically the MGTOW, is made up of gender ideologues griping about nature. I currently don't see it from you, and Barbarossssaa, or most of the prominent MGTOW, and I don't even see it in Sandman, aside from just the height issue, but I do see it in our movement, and I always have for the past year and a half that I have come back to this movement. There is that possibility. Of course, rocking mystery pretends to have a monopoly on the concept of nature all the while using discredited theories to support his pro-marriage nuclear family fetish, but still, his words about MGTOW being gender ideologues does haunt me, because it may not be the whole truth, but there is a grain of truth to it. Again, we mustn't allow ourselves to degrade into a bunch of guys crying about nature, crying about women not giving us their approval, the anger that women prefer to all men, and this is wrong, or immoral, or wicked of them, reeks of butthurt resent. The problem is it places value on a woman's approval. Think about it, why can't women approve of us short guys? How about why do you care so damned much about their approval to even give a shit? If you make an effort to conform to their approval, you are giving weight to the power of women's approval. This is gynocentric. If you are just angry and butthurt that you don't measure up to their standards to have gained their approval, you are still giving weight to the power of their approval. This is gynocentric. Stardusk, you are smart enough to teach them this, and you have a larger audience than me. I need your help to continue trying to teach these things to the crowd. Now let me get back to my rejoining of this movement, the YouTube era of the movement. I rediscovered the movement around February 2013, from Girl Rights What. I then made a few videos, not even about men's rights, and then made a 4-part video about men's rights/feminism, and then a response to a feminist. Then Girl Rights What liked my video, which gave me a few hundred views, and then Thunderfoot favored my video and that got me like 1,000 views, and then Girl Rights What actually featured me on her channel. All within a couple of days, I went from 2 subscribers to about 600 in a week. I felt like a superstar, and been making MRA videos ever since. When that channel went down, Girl Rights What and Barbarossssaa gave a shout out to my new channel, and I was built back up in a week, and have been growing ever since. I consider myself fortunate that Girl Rights What and Barbarossssaa, 2 giants in the manosphere, and the 2 people I respect the most in the manosphere gave me a shout out, and that Thunderfoot, a giant in the atheist community, has favored a few of my videos. I feel honored, and inspired by that I have caught the attention of people I have a lot of respect for, but most importantly, and I said this in my video announcing this to be my new channel, that I only had 500 subscribers on this new channel, and if that's all I got, then so be it. That's 500 fans who want to hear what I have to say and be entertained by my art. That's good enough for me. Don't get me wrong. The more subscribers the better. I'd love to be Mr. Popular, it would give me a louder voice in the community, but if 500's all I got, that's good enough. That's 500 more than I ever had back in the olden days of the anti-feminist movement. When it comes to who inspires me, I'd say Barbar and Girl Rights What. At least that's who within the manosphere inspires my MRM activism. Angry video game nerd, nostalgia critic, a dose of Buckley, and Nate's vlogs, inspires my creative and comical side, and Ramsey Paul inspires my hatred of political correctness and political hypocrisy. Though I'm not a nationalist, but I draw most of my inspiration from myself. The fact I got nearly 3,000 people to potentially listen to me, and about 500 loyal fans that are always eager for my videos. The other people that inspire me are feminists. So long as there is a feminist somewhere in this world saying batshit crazy things, I am inspired to retort, and forced to draw from deep within myself. You talk about wanting a community to inspire you and to inspire others. I get that. I think it would be awesome if Barbarossssaa, Man-Woman Myth, and Girl Rights What began making videos regularly with the same level of intellect. I think it would be awesome if a handful of new channels popped up and did the same. But I see no point in bitching at channels that are intellectually and ideologically subpar. You see it as a sign of the times, that the movement is ideologically, philosophically, regressing. I see how you could come to that conclusion, but I disagree. Regression, devolution, would mean that we are forgetting the knowledge we once had, that we are going back to the silly notion that foreign women are better, and we just need to convince feminists they'd be happier as stay-at-home mothers serving her husband and God. I don't think we're going back to that. Grant it, there is still a lot of that sentiment in our movement, but those who have higher knowledge of our situation are not forgetting it, nor is the repetition you speak of suggesting it. Sometimes movements settle down, stagnate for a bit. It is vital in that time to fill the gap with repetition. With no forward progress, on top of no repetition, the movement vanishes, goes out of style. So long as we have repetition, it remains stagnant until a new kid on the block rises to be a vocal ideological leader. Remove the repetition, and then you have regression. Furthermore, you should personally welcome mediocrity in the manosphere. It makes it easier for you to stand out as an intellectual. If you're the intellectual you fancy yourself to be, you should take this opportunity to rise up as that shining beacon of hope and guidance. If you don't, I will. Anyhow, you're considering just giving up. And so I ask, why are you making videos? If you walk away, that won't exactly do anything to electrify the manosphere. You can't raise the intellectual bar by walking away. If you walk away, what have you gained? I believe there is a chance the stagnation that you speak of is a reflection of your own internal stagnation. The fear that the community is one blowjob away from jumping ship, maybe projection on your part. I don't know this, only you can know this. As for your concern that the movement will regress, undo itself, fade out of existence, I don't share that fear. I believe there are things that can reduce our ability to get our message out. Legal and corporate policies that stifle our right of speech is the big one. Women making enough concessions to get the boys to settle down and resume their role as breadwinner, men just bellyaching about not being able to get laid and wanting to change the way women act to better their own personal chances of getting laid. People who think women will just up and change themselves if men cry about it long enough. The movement drifting in the wrong direction without guidance, that will hurt us, but none of these things will stop us, only slow us down and temporarily set us back. MGTOW, the way I see it, is a thing bigger and more powerful than any collection of internet wanderers. It is a thing bigger than Barbarossssaa, AVFM, Girl Rights What. It is a thing that is bigger than all the channels and forums that call themselves MGTOW. MGTOW is a thing like gynocentrism is a thing. In fact, one could go as far as to say it is the antithesis of gynocentric, female-centered. It is phallocentric, male-centered. There will be a shift in focus from femaleness to maleness. The early feminists were accused of being lesbians. The idea was if you don't want to play the game, you're a dyke. And MGTOW when it gains popularity will face the same thing. We will be told if you don't want to play the game, you're a fag. The game is the nuclear family traditionalism, the cult of domesticity, the support of the man and woman myth of interdependence. Well actually, the interdependence of man and woman isn't so much a myth as it is a romantic exaggeration. But anyhow, MGTOW is bigger than this community. It is a deep thing inside of the hearts and minds of free men. MGTOW is the free man. The man freed from gynocentrism. A man cannot be freed from gynocentrism by law or culture. He can only be free in his heart, in his head. Laws can be shaped around this, cultures can be modeled after this, but it is a thing inside the man who has been freed, he who has taken the red pill. If the MRM is a socio-political effort to achieve equal rights for men, then phallocentric MGTOW is the underlying principle, the driving force. You are as much phallocentric as you are not gynocentric, and vice versa. I see MGTOW as being an individual thing. When enough individuals do it, the end result for the culture is phallocentrism. Sorry if it seems like I am getting off topic, but I am trying to explain MGTOW as I see it, and its future, for the purpose of helping you to determine whether you want to stick around and be a part of this. I've seen the future. I've seen how this ends. I don't know every step of the way, but I have seen the end game. I get it. Gynocentric is the way it has always been, but MGTOW is the way it all ends. In short, we win. MGTOW is the natural conclusion of gynocentrism. I see how it works. I have figured out women, or, what I mean is this, Sigmund Freud, the man arguably most influential in modern Western thought, to the point where we could say we are living in the post-Freudian era, was asked the question what do women want, and he didn't have an answer. I have the answer. We all know what men want. They want pussy, sex, they want women. The need for female approval is the manifestation of wanting access to her pussy. You want pussy, you need her approval. Therefore the approval is what you seek, as a means to an end. That is men want pussy/sex. I was pondering Freud's inability to answer this question. I was pondering over some of the things Betty Friedan had talked about, including her rejection of Sigmund Freud's theories, and a song popped into my head, an old Cheap Trick song. Suddenly it dawned on me, it became clear, I got it now. I want you to want me, I need you to need me, I'd love you to love me, I'm begging you to beg me. That's it. Women want to be wanted, they need to be needed, and under the right conditions will beg you to beg them. Now that sounds simple, and rather pointless. I mean, we all know women want the attention, they seek attention from males. So it's not this big eye-opening revelation, or is it? Asking what is it that women want, is a bit like asking what is gravity. I take an apple, drop it, and say, there, that's gravity. Okay, that's clearly oversimplified, and so is answering they want to be wanted. I am not currently prepared to give a long and complex understanding of this. All I can do at the moment is drop an apple, and say, there, that's the answer to your question. But from this revelation, I thought about something, an old image I used to get in my head of man and woman. I used to picture a bunch of naked men, with leashes around their cocks, and women holding the other end of the leash. Men, complete slaves to women, with their sexual desires being the leash in which women could control them with. I then thought of a joke some stand-up comedian told about how if alien beings were to visit this world for the first time, and observe life, they'd probably assume dogs ran the world. You see a dog with a leash around its neck, and a human with a leash around its arm. You see the dog leading, the human following, and scooping up the dog's poop. It isn't hard for an alien in this circumstance to assume the dog is in charge, the human is its biped servant. After all, kinda hard to be the boss when you're picking up someone else's poop. Poop pickup tends to be the servant class job. And so now I rethink the old image of man and woman that I have always had in my head, and I realize, the illusion of the power in this scenario, and couple that with why feminists tend to assume males have all the sexual power. I suddenly realized how delicate the balance of power is. True, women right now absolutely dominate, they monopolize the power, but this can change rather easily. It's just a matter of understanding how it works. Gynocentrism is the old way. All, or nearly all, human behavior, thought, and feeling, is based on sex/reproduction. Gynocentrism came about because the reproductive limitation of the womb meant a species' population potential is based on whichever of the two sexes reproduces the slowest. This sets the female value higher, and for the purpose of maximizing survival, all behavior must be centered on protecting the wombs. This is the biological basis for gynocentrism. Gynocentrism is the old way. It is believed that animals do not have an understanding that their need to mate is a mechanism of reproduction, that offspring is the outcome of mating. But as animals evolved to be more intelligent, at some point in time we became aware of the reason behind our lust, the fact that doing the deed leads to offspring. This knowledge led to us being able to control our own reproduction. Over the millenniums we finally got to the point where we have nearly mastered reproduction. Condoms, vasectomies, tubal ligations, birth control pills, to remove reproduction, with in vitro fertilization, sperm banks, and soon the artificial womb, to aid in reproduction. We have nearly mastered control over a vital part of our existence that all other life forms are ignorant slaves to. Inside of men, there is this thing that is always there, but subconscious and not understood. But we have been evolving, and today we are awakening, taking the red pill as some may call it. That thing that is in us, is coming to the forefront, and we call this thing MGTOW. MGTOW, the thing that only now has a name. The answer to the masculine mystique, male autonomy, freedom from gynocentrism. The desire to be free from our gynocentric enslavement has become, by some people, to be actualized, fully realized. It has always been the inevitable outcome of gynocentrism, while some men in the MRM, some who are self-proclaimed MGTOW, may really just be seeking a better situation between the sexes, and nothing more. Some however are wanting total freedom from gynocentrism. The desire to drop out and no longer play on the gynocentric battlefield, is growing. Even the men that don't call themselves MGTOW, who have never heard the term, are feeling it deep inside of them. The Japanese herbivores, the record low marriage rates, the teenage girls of the 60s and 70s that now reject sexual liberation and encouraging nuclear family values, the young women and teenage girls of today crying louder than ever that everything with a cock is more than happy to fuck them, but no guy seems to want a relationship. The evidence is all around us. Men are feeling it, and it feels good. Women are feeling it, and it feels bad. MGTOW is a thing inside of us, and it is growing in our culture. The seed has been planted, it is slowly growing and becoming actualized. The MGTOW spirit, the spirit of man, man's autonomy, is growing. It will wax and wane, but it will prevail. Gynocentrism is a stage, like the larval stage. We are in our feminist cocoons, still dominated by gynocentrism, and we will emerge into the MGTOW era of individuality, male autonomy, and phallocentrism. This will happen. It is the inevitable outcome of gynocentrism, like the Industrial Revolution that changed humanity more radically than anything in human history ever has. So too will the coming of the MGTOW era. I do not believe the MGTOW era will be in any of our lifetimes, but we can stand here watching the seeds grow and doing our part to nurture its growth. It will require enthusiasm, repetition, internal strife, obstacles overcome, and new ideas. Old faces will disappear and new faces will appear. Your voice, Stardusk, has meant much to this community. You have inspired many people, and when you weren't busy inspiring, you were busy entertaining us, providing us with a place, a space to congregate, and feel like a community, a team. The online YouTube MGTOW community, and the MRM in general, has been better for having you among us. I'd like to think that you have been better for having us with you. Maybe what you need is a break, or maybe a re-examination of why you're here. If you leave, we will go on. But if you leave, you'll be missing some pretty interesting shit. We are living in interesting times.
I would like to see, quite frankly, a dozen new channels spring up with the desire to electrify the hearts and minds of men. Not by repetition, but by new insight.
There's this guy, maybe you've heard of him, by the name Sandman. He had his own take on this.
The MGTOW movement needs to overwhelm the mainstream. We need as many new channels producing as much content as quickly as possible.
The way I see it, we need more MGTOW, and we need the ones we have, to be more vocal, and we need those who are vocal, to push themselves harder to deliver better content. We just need more, period. Let's analyze Sandman's video style. He produces a video per day, a daily dose if you will, which averages a mere 8 to 10 minutes. They are effectively just an audio recording of him talking about a life experience that is relative to his becoming MGTOW, or an experience that makes him reflect on his MGTOW philosophy, while overlaying some photographs from his photography work. Arguably it's a pretty easy way to make a video, though to be fair, most videos in the manosphere are just off-the-cuff statements being recorded by a mic and uploaded, in order to hold my interest. If all you're doing is talking into a mic, even if you are visually on camera, you better be saying some seriously interesting shit or I'm going to fall asleep. I like to see a story unfold. I want special effects. I want jokes. I want to be entertained. 99% of the manosphere on YouTube is just boring. People bellyaching about their feelings on women in the most incoherent manner, and doing it with migraine-inducing audio noise coming through their mic. So many videos where if you snip out there, and awkward pauses, you'd go from having a 20-minute video to a 7-minute video, and if they removed the aspect of repeating themselves they'd have a 3-minute video. What is up with the people who do the shit? They're the assholes at McDonald's who stand in line for 10 minutes and then get to the counter and stand there going let's see here, do you have, and you think to yourself, you had 10 minutes standing in line, and you never bothered to look at the menu? And then you notice them looking at the menu on the left, then on the right, then on the left, and then on the right, and you're just standing there like, God damn it man, they're the same menu, and you really begin hating this person because damn it, it's McDonald's, their menu hasn't changed in 50 years, how do you not know what they have? And then they ask stupid shit like, do you serve Coke or Pepsi? And you seriously start wishing this guy would die, and you become so tempted to yell he'll take the number 2 with a Diet Coke, because his fat ass needs it, to go. Keyword go as in get the fuck out of here you asshole, fucking standing around at the counter of a McDonald's going It doesn't matter what you order, it all tastes the same, like McDonald's, the McDonald's flavor, it's not good or bad, it's just McDonald's. Now what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, most people in the manosphere are painfully boring, and I don't bother watching most people's videos, so let's examine Sandman's quality. His videos are short and sweet. Good audio quality and he knows what he wants to say and spits it out. The fact that he speaks loud and clear and gets to the point, puts him ahead of most video makers in the manosphere. He has excellent fan interaction. Every time I ever commented on his channel he has commented back surprisingly fast, and with a positive attitude even when I am criticizing an aspect of his video. His channel in some regards acts as a public forum for MGTOW. I would say his channel is really just an excellent place to stand around having water cooler talk. It gives the community a place to share their feelings, experiences and views on everyday man and woman interactions. To some extent, his channel acts like a hangout, or quaint party with a reasonably charismatic speaker as the host. In this regard, Sandman is delivering a needed service to our community. In the comments section of your video, someone mentioned that Sandman was a marketer first, then chauvinist, then a MGTOW, or something like that. Well, I'll say this, he does seem to be first and foremost an internet marketer, and to that, I say so what? He is good at marketing himself, and this is a valuable skill, and one he has been willing to share with the MGTOW community. He made a video, I can't find it anymore. because he's only made 600 or 700 videos since then. Cheap shot, you know I had to go there, but in this video he mentioned techniques to better get your message out there, and just from memory, I believe he said something like search for feminist hot topics by using Google, and find out what topics are trending. Now make a video on the subject and put the trending topic into the title of your video. This is sure to attract attention since the phrase itself is so commonly sought after. I may be getting the advice wrong, but it was something like that. Anyhow, the point is, he is very good at marketing himself, and this is a valuable asset, and most importantly, he is willing to share his marketing techniques with the community. I know that even from a Google search engine, I type in MGTOW, or any phrase plus the word MGTOW, and it seems like time after time, on the first or second page, there is a reference to at least one Sandman video. So Sandman knows how to market himself, that's for sure, and that's beneficial, because we need to get our message out there. Feminist organizations rake in millions per year, they can flood primetime television with their domestic violence ads. We can't do that. We're a poor little ragtag collective on the internet. We've got to adapt and use any means necessary to get our message out to the public. When I first got Facebook, and knew nothing about how it works, I got a PM on YouTube from some guy who wanted to invite me to be part of his secret MGTOW group. I had no intentions of being part of a secret anything. I don't get it. I don't understand this mentality. What good is being secret? Gentlemen, we can't throw a revolution by whispering and hiding in the shadows. We have to be loud and in the spotlight and in your face. We can't exist in secret and then simultaneously bellyache about how come we haven't changed the world yet. We have to get up and be loud, get noticed. And a large part of that is learning how to package our message and how to market that package. Sandman is good at this marketing and is willing to share his knowledge, or at least some of it, with us, which says to me that he's a team player who wants us as a team to succeed, and I like team players. Us males have spent far too long locked into our old gynocentric way of thought where we jealously sabotage our fellow man, who we secretly see as rivals on the path to pussy. We must learn to play for the team, the brotherhood of MGTOW, the team of man. I like team players, and I think Sandman's a team player. Now I'll admit, my inner child does feel jealous of Sandman's success on here. He does an 8-minute video, inserts some of his photography, and within a few days gets 4,000 views. I work my fingers to the bone for a week, producing a funny, informative, entertaining video, 20 minutes long, and get about 1,500 views in a week. Of course a part of me is jealous, but that part of me is my inner child. My outer adult realizes that if Sandman's success makes me jealous, that's my problem, not his. I can't fault him, and I can't fault the MGTOW audience. You like what you like, I have no control over that. If I want Sandman's success, I have to copy his formula, being that I can't speak, and must rely on a text-to-speech program. I can't fully duplicate his style, but what I can do is critique my videos to follow his format and see if that boosts my success. However, my motivation for making videos is essentially to have fun, and I like making long masterpieces. I like character-driven stories and special effects and humor to convey a point and entertain my audience with it. That's what gives me joy, and that means 20-minute videos or significantly longer, and it means a very slow rate of production. That's my style, and I'm stuck with it. I've always said many times in my videos and to my fans begging for me to release another video, quality over quantity, because that's what makes me happy. It's my style, and it's my motive, so I can't duplicate Sandman's approach. Again, that's my problem, not his. I can't begrudge him for his success. I, and Barbarossssaa, gave Sandman a shout out a few months ago, and this really helped to launch that success. I don't regret the shout out, and I take pride in knowing I took part in helping him succeed, and I'm not trying to take credit for his success. I'm just saying I seen his talent, believed he was of interest to the MGTOW community, and did my part to alert my audience to his channel. And I don't regret it. Sandman fills a need, a short, simple and sweet daily video, providing the community with a place to hang out and do a little water cooler talking with his videos subject being the talking point of the day. It serves a purpose. It fulfills a need that was not being met by others. Sandman's found his place, fills a need, and is providing the community with a service, and by all accounts, seems like a team player. Sandman has responded to Stardusk and Barbarossssaa and had this to say.
To end this video, I want to respond to Barbarossaa's latest video called On Stagnation that was released earlier today. I've also added a link in the description below. The evolutionary and scientific arguments for MGTOW have been made. The theoretical framework has been laid down for MGTOW for the most part. The New World has been discovered and explored, but it hasn't been settled and colonized. The first MGTOWs were like Christopher Columbus, who discovered the New World, or James Cook, who provided the first map of the Pacific Ocean, or even like Lewis and Clark exploring the interior of the North American continent. But now it's time to settle that landscape and tell our own stories and make MGTOW about our personal journeys. If any of you have driven down I-95, the busiest highway in the east coast of the United States, you'll know you can drive down from Canada all the way down to Florida in about 24 hours. And along the way you'll see tons of fast food joints and motels to stop along the way. They aren't the prettiest thing to look at, but if you want to move great numbers of people, you need economies of scale. You have to make MGTOW about scale and size if you want to get the message out as quickly as possible. During the Second World War, Operation Barbarossa was launched by the Axis countries against the Soviet Union. The German army had far superior tanks and firepower. They were heavy on technical innovation, but they still lost the war because the Soviet army overwhelmed them with sheer numbers of force. The MGTOW movement needs to overwhelm the mainstream. We need as many new channels producing as much content as quickly as possible. If my daily dose videos have motivated Barbarossa to start producing videos, then I see that as a major victory for all MGTOWs. I might have woken up a sleeping giant, and now we're all going to benefit from the content he produces, and what's wrong with that? And what did Germany do after it lost the Second World War, you ask? Well, it took those superior quality military goods and retooled its factories to manufacture and sell the entire world the finest automobiles. Germany found a way to mass produce high quality goods. A combination like that can't be beaten. Quality and quantity. I'm also a big fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And when the Borg were first introduced on that television show, the Federation was arrogant and cocky. But after that, these particular words from Captain Picard are now as relevant as ever. He said, maybe we need a kick in our complacency. So if I ended up kicking the great MGTOW video producers out there out of their semi-retirement, then this may end up becoming a great thing.
I applaud his mature response and his optimistic attitude. I myself have politely disagreed with him in the comments of his videos a couple of times, and received the same type of mature response, and an appreciation for my input, and that's what I mean about his channel being a fun place to hang out. He's the gracious host of a cozy little hangout, and I think that's a big part of why so many MGTOW enjoy his contribution to our community. So often I see such pessimistic, depressing defeatism in the manosphere, and I can't stand that shit. Negative Nancies bring me down. And I see so much pride and ego. To my eyes, pride and ego are juvenile states of mind. It is refreshing to see optimism and maturity. It really does feel invigorating. I want to say this, not everyone has to be a Barbarossssaa, or a girl writes what, or—
Oh good lord, will you please get over your crush?
What, Kate, what are you talking about?
The way you go on and on praising Barbarossssaa, I think it's clear you've got a bit of a man crush on him. Come to think of it, so does Stardusk. In fact, Stardusk's entire video can be summed up by saying Sandman's both popular and boring, and I miss Barbarossssaa and feel lonely without him. And then you make a video that is basically saying, oh really, you think you can kiss Barbarossaa's ass? I can kiss his ass twice as much.
Yeah, we can all hear you screaming, oh no you don't, Stardusk, Barbar is my man, keep your hands off. If I were a newcomer to this movement I would wonder why I am watching a video of two people fighting over the affections of this guy named Barbarossssaa.
And who knows, maybe that is the motivation for you and Stardusk's videos. You've gone so long without women you're developing a man crush on Barbar and fighting for his affection.
Yeah, what appears to be an intellectual argument over stagnation and ideological direction, has the underlying motive of sexual tension. It's all very Freudian.
Paul, don't get Freudian on me. Besides, as Sigmund Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
And sometimes it's a big brown dick.
Puff puff.
Kate, stop stealing George Carlin's jokes. Paul, go polish my Viper.
When you say Viper, do you mean the car in the garage, or is that a euphemism for your dick?
Damn it you two, get out of here. As I was saying, Stardusk. I want to say this, not everyone has to be a Barbarossssaa, or a girl writes what, or a man-woman myth. That's as silly as saying Barbarossssaa is the world's greatest blacksmith. Thus all trades workers must aspire to be great blacksmiths. That's just silly. In order for our community to grow, we are going to need many people of various talents they can share with the community. We'll need blacksmiths and carpenters, bankers and shopkeepers. We'll need farmers and sheriffs, tailors and preachers, soldiers and teachers, painters and musicians, historians and storytellers. We need great diversity in our community, each man offering his unique view, his unique voice, and his unique method of distribution, Barbarossssaa said.
And to the issue of stagnation, well, I'm not going to call out any names. The people know who they are who are doing this.
You know who you are, Doom. You know we all know. Stop half-assing it.
It's almost as if we've gotten lazy, right? I needed a break from the manosphere and so.
You know what, I hate to cut you off here, but I've been giving Doom Rules a tough time in this video, and I want to take this opportunity to thank him for being a good sport. I am going to link his channel to everyone, and ask that anyone who hasn't heard of him before, go take a look at his channel, if you haven't already seen it. His video I Need Feminism Because Nerdisms is very short, clever, and funny, so go check out Doom Rules. Anyhow, back to you, Barb.
It's almost as if we've gotten lazy, right? I needed a break from the manosphere, and so I stepped back. For the first time, I suffered, yes, what you could call burnout. I mean, I needed to be away from the manosphere. It got overwhelming. It didn't feel, it got revolting after a while. I had to take a step back. And so I was silent for a little while, and that was by design. And I think now coming back to the manosphere, it's going to be in a much less interactive way. I mean, I'm not going to bother with, hour-long discussions in the comment section. I don't even know if I want to answer comments back. I just want to focus on putting out content, and unfortunately, because people are half-assing it, I'm going to have to essentially come back in and show people how it's done, because I will not allow MGTOW to be half-assed. And no, I'm not some authority figure on MGTOW, none of that, but I just can't allow it to be half-assed. So if you're one of these people that are half-assing it and just kind of putting out these lazy videos, remember that there were people that came before you, people like myself, people like Stardusk, that put in the passion and the energy and the dedication that it took to create some of the best videos that have ever been produced by the minds of people in the MGTOW sphere, if you will. We didn't half-ass it, and we demand that others do not. Now, again, that's going to sound, I guess, arrogant, but I paid my dues. I mean, I paid my dues. Look at my videos. Look at the body of my work. Look at what I've accomplished. Look at the subscribers, right? I paid my dues. So I put in the work. So this is somebody who put in the work before I'm saying this. There's a huge, huge, huge body of work on my YouTube channel that you can draw upon to see that I put in the passion, the time, and the energy. And if I did it, then everybody else can do it too. And we shouldn't be half-assing MGTOW. That's all I gotta say. It's not about making enemies. It's not about calling people out. It's just don't half-ass it, man. Just don't do it. That's all I gotta say.
The only problem I can find with this statement is that not everyone can be a Barbarossssaa. Not everyone can be an insightful person who thinks outside of the box and then articulates their views with a captivating and charismatic tone of voice. Not everyone is capable of deep thought, or unique thought. Not everyone has the ability to verbally express themselves. Not everyone has a voice that is soothing to the ears. In defense of Sandman, I'm not entirely sure that half-assing it, or lazy, are accurate words to describe his contribution. He puts out a video per day. He doesn't sit around stammering or eating lunch and slurping a soda when speaking. He gets right to the point and delivers a quick story about a real-life situation that relates to his MGTOW philosophy, and then proceeds to be very fan-interactive. And I'll confess, I have listened to some of his videos and actually carry those stories around with me in my brain to aid and abet my own view, my own interpretation, of a gender dynamic I see unfolding in my life. I'll admit he's never opened my eyes and pushed my level of thought to all new heights as Friedrich Nietzsche and Schopenhauer have, but then again, very few people in all my life ever have. But when all is said and done, I do value his insight, and the way he presents these stories and observations are fun to listen to. I wouldn't use the words lazy or half-assed to describe his contribution. There is something about his one video per day, right on the dot, that screams commitment and work ethic. I stop and wonder how many times he's made a video when he was tired, had a headache, or actually had to schedule his day in a way that deliberately allotted him enough time to get a video done and up. Because he knows his audience is expecting their daily dose, and like a man under contract, doesn't want to disappoint his clients. I'm not sure I would call his one video per day work ethic lazy. As for half-ass, his audio quality is excellent. His delivery sounds professional, he's not banging around his microphone, stuttering and stammering, yawning and rambling, and having a meal in the middle of a speech. And damn it, I've actually heard some MGTOW a year ago, eating food in the middle of a speech, and talking with his mouth full. He at least had the self-awareness to apologize for the obnoxious sound of him eating, but I have to wonder why the guy couldn't wait until after his meal to start recording. Could have been worse, he could have been on the toilet. So in that regard, I will echo Barbarossaa's statement, don't half-ass it, speak clearly into the microphone, move the microphone away from your computer if the computer fan is loud, consider plopping down 40 or 50 bucks to buy some really silent fans for your rig, turn off the TV in the background. Do not speak into a microphone with your lips so close that it picks up a pop, if your computer or environment is loud, and this forces you to turn your mic volume all the way down and thus you have to speak loudly into the mic at close range. At least make yourself a pop filter. To make a pop filter, just use a cotton ball and rubber band, or a cloth and string. Be an inventive man and figure it out. Whatever you do, never ever slide your mic when you are talking because it will generate a loud scraping sound which will blow someone's eardrums. And the number one most common problem, turn down the mic input so you are not constantly distorted when speaking. If you are sitting in a squeaky chair, stop moving around and squeaking. If your recording sounds underwater and wobbly, you probably have some sort of noise reduction or echo cancellation effect running in real time. Turn that shit off. If for whatever reason your volume goes up and down drastically, save the recording, run it through some free audio effects processor with compression. Audacity is free and I believe can do this. Play with the compressor until you've boosted your soft sounds and lowered your high sounds without such severity that it actually sounds compressed, and then boost the total signal as loud as you can get it before it clips. This ensures that people with crappy laptop speakers can hear you, but because nothing clips, your voice is not distorting. This may sound petty and superficial, but believe me, there are two reasons I don't watch many channels from the YouTube manosphere: crappy audio and pointless rambling. Get good sound, stay on track. And remember, it is always better to record at too low of a volume and then boost and compress in the post-recording phase, than it is to record too loud. Because once a saved audio file clips, that clipped portion is literally clipped, there's no way to get it back, and lowering the volume won't bring back the clipped portion. For those of you who aren't talented at talking off the cuff, write it down, hold your hand above the pause button on your recorder, read a paragraph, pause and save, resume and read the next paragraph. If you mess up, delete the new recording, resume, rinse and repeat until each paragraph comes out sounding fluid. Each paragraph will be its own recording so that each paragraph comes out fluid. Practice, 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 and don't let judgmental assholes like me get you down. Do your best, even if your best sucks. Just make sure it's your best, and I think that's what Barbarossaa meant. If you can do better, then stop being lazy and live up to your full potential. Don't be lazy, don't be complacent. Challenge yourself, step up to the plate and make it count each and every time. And for those of you who can't make videos for whatever reason, start a blog. For those of you who have nothing to contribute and wish to remain spectators, be the best damn spectators you can be, by giving thumbs up to a video you like, or by leaving a short and simple compliment, seeing as how the underlying motivation for most speakers in our movement is the personal gratification of appealing to an audience and knowing they've been appreciated in some capacity. They're either in it for the money or in it for the ego stroke, or both. So if you ain't got the money, stroke their ego. If it just isn't within you to make some noise and be a content provider, in video or in blog, then just be the best damn spectator you can be. And for those of you nervous and just starting out, like I said, just work on making a clear recording, and take comfort in knowing not everyone is a judgmental loudmouth prick like me. If you just can't make a good recording because of audio issues, stammering problems, or a thick accent, then one possibility is to write out the message you want to deliver, and then ask another MGTOW if they'd like to read it for their audience. Perhaps Sandman can do this, perhaps he'll ask for a donation to do this. Write him and ask him if he feels up to it, how much money he wants, how long the speech is. I myself have considered doing this. After all, not everyone can stand to listen to a text-to-speech program read to them. I have no doubt this is holding me back from reaching my full potential, and I don't blame those individuals. If you can't stand the choppy robot voice, I don't blame you. even though I've gotten used to it. Not many people are willing to give it a chance and get used to it. I've considered maybe writing a page or two of some really important well thought out message I want to get across to the MGTOW audience, and asking Sandman to read it to his audience, and slipping a few bucks his way for the favor. I figure that way people get to hear my message delivered in clear human audio, and my message would reach a minimum of 4,000 people, with a link back to my channel in the video description. Not only would I get my message across to MGTOW, but it would be a way of advertising my channel, and a few bucks in Sandman's pocket for the service. Everybody wins. Again, ask Sandman, ask some other MGTOW. But this is how we're going to have to start thinking. We're going to have to examine our individual strengths, and rely on each other's individual talents like a community of complementary tradesmen. And for those of you with foreign accents, who are embarrassed to try to speak English to an audience, how about making a video in your own native tongue? If you are Indian, for example, and you are concerned about gender problems in India, then speaking your own language to your fellow countrymen is far more beneficial than speaking to a Western English audience. Misandry and gynocentrism are not confined to English speakers, or the Western culture. If you are bilingual, perhaps you can take the videos of Girl Writes What, or Barbarossssaa, and write them down, and translate it into your own language, and read it. That way the wisdom from our best thinkers can be spread to a non-English speaking audience. Again, gentlemen, we cannot whisper in the shadows of secrecy, nor can we stand around intellectually circle jerking. We need more voices. Voices in different languages, voices in different formats, in different countries. We need real-world activism as well. We need to have the courage to make some noise, and we need to have the integrity to up our game and do it better, do it to the best of our ability. We need to think outside the box and spread our tentacles. We need to bring red pills to the masses. I just want more MRA/MGTOW participation. I want this community to get loud. If you're watching this video and feel inspired, let me know. Be vocal about it. If you think I am an asshole, then speak up and let me hear it. For better or for worse, make some damn noise. Let the world know you're here.
It might be that the goal of MGTOW, for all I know, is a completely different one. Maybe it is just to opt out of marriage because the laws are unfair. And maybe it is just waiting until women make enough concessions so we can get our blowjobs again. I don't know anymore. I really don't even know what this whole thing's about.
Well, that is a likely possibility. I believe MGTOW is a direct reaction to cost outweighing the benefit of relationships with women. I don't believe it sprang up as some new age need to explore man's inner self for the hell of it. The greatest danger MGTOW faces is, as you said, women making enough concessions to lower the risk and put the cost back on par with the benefit of seeking out relationships. So if women just ease back the least bit on the reins, I believe many MGTOW will come crawling back. A MGTOW by the name of Men on Strike basically summed up with his username what MGTOW is: men going on strike. And why do people strike? Because they want the corporation to give them concessions. Give us a raise. Give us dental. Give us 2 breaks a day, etc. The company in many cases will negotiate, and meet them halfway. The strikers will cave under intense pressure to make ends meet. They, in most cases, will benefit, but seldom get everything they asked for, but they'll get just enough to shut them up. That would be worst case scenario. MGTOW will not go away so long as women are dangerous to be in a relationship with. Like I said earlier, the movement will not fade away so long as the conditions that inspired it remain. One of the concepts I hope to get across is that men don't need women nearly as much as they have themselves convinced they do. The more men walk away from women, the more women's empire, their dominion over man, crumbles. I think it's obvious to men by now, a secret that women have always known: whoever cares less about the relationship controls the relationship. This is why women have always cared less, because they want to be winners. This is why they surround themselves with male friends, good safe beta males as safety nets. If you don't want to get your shit together and do as she says, she's done with you and has some backup dick on speed dial. You on the other hand had to give up all of your lady friends, because she was jealous. In reality, she didn't like you having anything that could possibly be a safety net. Her goal was to keep you as addicted to her pussy, and as emotionally reliant on her as possible. Women have always cared less. I do believe men, not even self-identified MGTOW, are catching on to this. Men just don't care about relationships as much as they used to. They got 1,000,001 bitches ready to give them some webcam titties. They got that shit on speed dial, and they're not falling in love as deeply anymore since slut culture makes pussy not only more available, but it makes each woman a little less special of a prize. Also, in our slut culture, our hookup culture, he doesn't expect a relationship to last that long to begin with, and because women are such out-of-control narcissists, they're even more unlovable and unbearable to deal with, so men are more in it for just a quick BJ than they ever were in the past. Men are gaining control of relationships because they just don't care. Turning your back on women is the most beneficial thing you can do for yourself and your fellow man. When a man meets a woman, if only he could just hold out 5 minutes before making it painfully obvious that he'd sell his soul to get in her pants, if he could just wait 5 minutes, she in most cases, if she was ever actually planning on fucking you to begin with, will make the first move. You just have to wait 5 minutes before throwing yourself at her and begging for pussy. Now the thing is, she'll make the first move to get you teased up, and then she'll stop and not want to go any further. Well, that's when the man resumes his pussy begging, leaving her in complete control and without any real motive to give you any. So long as you're jumping through hoops and begging, she's not giving it up. She's going to tell you about her trip to the mall. She's going to play with her cat and ask you if you think Mr. Cuddles is just the cutest thing in the world, and she's going to text her friends the whole time you're trying to put the moves on her, and this is what she does for fun. This is her foreplay, this is her exercising her dominance. So here's what you do. You wait until she puts the moves on you, and then you begin the makeout. When she stops, you stop. I mean you stop completely, and refuse to let her begin again. You make it clear in a respectful manner that you're not going to keep doing this back and forth, starting and stopping. Either there is zero making out, or we're going all the way, but nothing in between. And if she decides that there is going to be nothing, then guess what? You weren't actually going to get laid that night anyway. And I can hear you asking, what the fuck does this PUA shit have to do with MGTOW? I'm not suggesting these tips as literal dating tips for individuals. I am suggesting it as a cultural theme. Men just need to stop being such thirsty pussy beggars, and the balance of power radically shifts. Men need to stop viewing pussy as the ultimate goal in life. He needs to quit believing that when a woman offers sex to him, that he is being taken to the promised land by this goddess. He needs to realize her pussy has no more value than his dick. Girl writes what once explained the value of male and female sexuality. Something about a woman becoming pregnant is 9 months of gestation, compromised health and mobility during the time that makes her very vulnerable, and childbirth can cost her life. A man's role is squirting a few calories of protein into her that he can recharge in an hour or so with a candy bar. Therefore the man's sexual offering has less appeal than the woman's, since effectively giving up 9 months of your life being compromised and vulnerable is a far greater sacrifice than a daily squirt. And this of course is true, and has been one of the underlying themes of why women by virtue of their reproductive organs, have always been greater value than a man by virtue of his reproductive organs. However, as I would explain it, this is no longer applicable. Sure, a woman parts with 9 months of her life, or any degree of time until she feels like aborting it. A man's 5-second squirt is an 18-year commitment to be financially obligated to the offspring at the behest of the woman. If a man squirts, it's an 18-year contract that benefits the recipient of that sperm more so than him, considering she will be the real parent of the child, and has all the reproductive say. The woman is potentially sacrificing 9 months of her life. The man is now sacrificing 18 years of his. Therefore, as a culture, we need to acknowledge our cocks are greater prizes than pussies. We need to realize this both literally and metaphorically. Men need to learn self-respect, and to shame and scold pussy-begging behavior. In the same way we currently bully men into things with accusations of being a fag, we can instead shame him for pussy-begging. Pussy-beggar will be the new faggot, if you get what I mean. Simply put, when the women eventually do make some concessions and effectively say, alright guys, if you come crawling back to us on your hands and knees, we'll give up no-fault divorce. I fear too many so-called MGTOW will end their personal strike and come crawling back, being assured that the abuse they suffer this time won't be as bad as before. This is basically what the critical G was pushing so hard for. He really wanted to end that no-fault divorce. That was his big push. I encourage my fellow MGTOW to have more self-respect than that. When they offer to let you come crawling back, and are willing to give up a few advantages, the answer is no. I'm fishing with my buddies, RBK, Stardusk, and Barbarossssaa. I don't have time to do any crawling today. When they offer more concessions, forget about it. The end game, as far as I see it, for MGTOW, isn't that we go on strike until women give up a couple of privileges, or offer to get back in the safe kitchen and fix a sandwich. No, the end goal is absolute autonomy, when reasonable sexual gratification can come without the need for an investment in relationship, and possibly even without the physical presence of a woman. When being a father can be achieved via the artificial womb, when there is autonomy, when a man needs a woman like a fish needs a bicycle and the women know it, this will have an automatic effect. Men in the future, at least for this argument, will be divided into two classes: men who are worthless spineless pussy beggars, and the elites, the alpha males who are going their own way. I think there has to be some part of every man that gets it. When you show a woman you do not want her, you become special. When you throw yourself at her, you disgust her. Again, Women know better than anyone that whoever cares the least about the relationship, controls the relationship. I'm not sure most men knew that, but I think they're catching on to it by now. And a man throwing himself at a woman, a typical nice guy, doesn't get laid, because he's sad and pathetic. A man who pays for a woman to go to dinner is effectively bribing a woman to date him. That's some pathetic shit, and women know it. They feel it in their gut. But Johnny Bad Boy that ain't giving her a penny, doesn't need her pussy, and that excites her and earns her respect. And it often becomes a vicious cycle. The guy that doesn't give a shit gets all the pussy, reinforcing his situation to not give a shit about pussy. I'm not proposing this as a mating strategy, or a pickup strategy. I am proposing it as a cultural theme. Men have got to realize the value of their cock, the value of themselves, the value of men. We have got to stop worshipping women. You hear it all the time. Boo-hoo, women walk around thinking the world revolves around them. Okay, and where do you think that notion comes from? Could it be that men actually do revolve around women like they are the center of the universe? I hear, boo-hoo, women think they're entitled. Okay, and where are they getting this from? Maybe the fact men are worshipping them and giving them things, just for having the almighty pussy. If we want women to stop walking around like entitled goddesses, us men need to stop working so hard to convince them they are entitled goddesses. I hear boo-hoo, women friend-zone men. That's so mean. Okay, it is uncool of them, but the bigger fault is that of the man. Stop letting bitches friend-zone you. After all, in some cases she might think you really are just a pal and not a pussy beggar she is putting on standby. Furthermore, why should she respect a man that is too cowardly to come right out and express his true feelings and motivations for her? Tell her your true intentions. If she doesn't reciprocate, get up and leave. That is what having MGTOW in your heart is like. It's not about asking women to treat you nicer. It's about just not allowing them to treat you bad. It's about having self-respect as a man and not centering yourself on her. My personal goal is to strengthen and refortify MGTOW, to teach my view of what MGTOW is, to have this be a thing that men carry in their hearts, always, for MGTOW to go from being a large group of internet companions, to slowly becoming just a cultural theme. If it can one day, in the distant future, become our cultural theme, then no matter how many concessions women make, it can never end the strike in our hearts, even in a society where the average man is in a relationship of some sort, with MGTOW in his heart. He is never property. Her object of abuse. He knows, consciously and subconsciously, that he has value. His dick has value. He does not view himself as having value by proxy of a woman's approval. He has great value independent of her approval, and her approval neither adds or diminishes that worth. That isn't my current interpretation or plans of MGTOW. It is my hope for MGTOW in the great and distant future, far beyond my lifetime. It is not the rules of MGTOW. It is the end game of MGTOW. Perhaps I could be as poetic as to say MGTOW is a philosophy. It is the spirit of man, the spirit of male autonomy. It is the male identity rewritten, not by the laws of gynocentrism, but by the laws of our heart. Women crave safety, men crave freedom. We all know that. A man craves freedom while being a chronic pussy addict. Once the addiction to pussy is broken, and I have reason to believe in the future, it will for the most part be broken, then man is truly free. Again, to me, MGTOW is the brotherhood of man, the love and value of true maleness, the philosophy of man, the autonomy of man. The man liberated from gynocentrism, both legally, culturally, and spiritually. It is freedom, not comfort, but freedom. And in our brave new world, how will things be for women? How about, I don't know nor do I care. Feel the spirit of MGTOW in that statement. Gentlemen, MRM will be our movement, MGTOW will be our philosophy, our spirit. And the end game of the MRM is a simple one, for women in no aspect of life to have any advantages to men, absolute equality. That's the simple end game. That's the basic premise behind MRM. However, my personal take on it, the way the MRM will be with MGTOW in our hearts, is as such. Women shall have no advantage to men in any way whatsoever, and if in any way men have advantages to women, oh well, as a man that's not my problem. I do not seek superior rights over women. I just don't care if that should happen. All I am concerned with is the equality of men, that men not be disadvantaged in any way. As for women being disadvantaged in any way, again, that's not my problem. I as a man will never go to bat for the sex that by its nature is antithetical to the well-being of my own. Their problems are their problems, not mine. Some people think there is a divide between MRM and MGTOW. But there is not. Some believe the difference between a MGTOW and an MRA is that MRAs just want to end feminism and put women back in the kitchen, that they blame communism and cultural Marxism for the abusive behavior of women. I tell you now, this is not true. Even though I am a man who has worn out the words cultural Marxism probably more than rocking mystery, I do not blame women's bad behavior on Marxism. I don't even really blame that much of it on feminism. Half of it is the internal biologically driven apathy towards men. The narcissism, the greed, the misandry, within them, and some of it is the worship they receive from men. Those that believe feminism must be defeated so women will get back in the kitchen, and start making babies for their breadwinning husband. Those are tradcans, and it's about time the tradcans understand. They are not MRAs. Perhaps one way of looking at it is, MRM is a goal, MGTOW is a state of mind. MRM is a socio-political movement for the equal rights of men, nothing more and nothing less. It is not left nor right, and neither up nor down, it is just equality for men. And how will this equality be established? By any means necessary, by hook or by crook, come hell or high water, no holds barred, by use of any and every idea and strategy, forever changing and adapting to whatever works. Any way it can get done, just get it done. With the MRM as our socio-political movement, and MGTOW as our philosophy, and to some, our spirituality. In this era, in this generation, we march, we take our first steps forward to a brave new world. The future is ours. It's a long trek, and it's gonna be rough, but I tell ya, boy oh boy it's gonna be fun. So don't bail just yet, Stardusk, things are just getting interesting.
Hello and welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order?
Yeah, I'll have the let's see. Let's see here. Do you have? Yeah, I'll have the let's see. Let's see here. Do you have?
Oh, for crying out loud, it's McDonald's. How do you not know what to get? It's McFucking Donald's. Hamburger, you asshole. Order a hamburger.